My name is Frank Bunker. I'm going to talk today about the broadcast server and new capabilities in Stratum. And I'll go through those first in a brief PowerPoint, and then we'll take a look at it in a demo. So with that said, let's just talk a little bit about what we were trying to accomplish with the advent of the Stratum broadcast server. So as many of you probably know, there's already a concept called action in Stratum that allow you to distribute information. It's a basic system that allows you to take a view of information and get that emailed to people. But it was the beginning. That was the infrastructure we wanted to use to build a broader solution that allowed you to do many more things and also get feedback from our customers on the kinds of things they'd like to see in a solution like that. So with that occurred, and with version 6.5 of Stratum, there's an add-on module that you can license that allows you to expand what you do in terms of distribution of information from Stratum, which is called the Stratum Broadcast Server. And our objectives were a couple of things there. First of all, loud and clear, we got back the message that it needs to be user managed. So we don't want to remove IT controls, but we do want to remove the reliance on the IT staff to be able to set up and distribute information from Stratum. So that was one thing. We wanted the user community, given the right level of security, of course, to be able to create the ability to distribute multiple views to an individual or a set of individuals, and do that, say, on a daily, weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever it may be. So that was one of the things. The other was we wanted, obviously, to leverage your existing Stratum infrastructure, and by that we mean a couple of things. First of all, we want to leverage the views you've created. So as you've created views in Stratum, we want to make sure you can get those. Now, obviously, people can already get to them in the web-based viewer, but we want you to be able to easily distribute those out to people that either, number one, might not be users of Viewer today. They may be in your organization, but they don't really go into Viewer for whatever reason, and you want to push this information to them. So the broadcast server is a push kind of facility versus regular Stratum Viewer. I would think of as a pull, where people have to come in and ask for information. The other is you'd like to be able to take advantage of security. So as you push information out to people, we also just want to push the information they have access to. So that's something we did as well. We want it to be flexible, user-controlled, as I mentioned, but at the same time, we want to have some controls in there for IT to make sure maybe there's some fixed schedules. You want to make sure that this one schedule, nobody changes it. This one group of views is always processed, that kind of thing. So you have that ability as well. The other thing that we wanted to do was make sure you could distribute information from Stratum at your discretion outside your organization as well. And this came up with a lot of our customers that sell through distributor networks. So they might want to push information out to their distributors who really don't have access to get to Viewer or to your network, but you do need to get specific information to those guys on a regular basis. So it allows you to do all these things and do this from your regular Viewer admin. So at a high level, one of the questions is, how does this all fit into what we do at Sylvan? And the way it fits is, I've talked for a long time, a lot of you have seen this slide before, many times before, which is what we call flexible information delivery. And our objective is for you to collect information into Stratum, which has a lot of business value behind it, all the time and energy and the business knowledge that you put into that collection of information. We want to use that, and we want to be able to distribute that to people quickly and easily in a lot of different formats. And everyone knows about Viewer and the ability to get to information that way, so you can get in a web-based from wherever. You guys know we've introduced the mobile stuff. You can put it up in the dashboard. You can get to it through Excel. But one of the things that we wanted you to be able to do was push this information out to other people and provide them some way to easily get to that information. And you can see down here in the bottom here, we have this in the works thing. And if I go to the next slide, what you'll see is we've expanded on what you can do here. And we've added 2 new pieces to this last column on reporting, and that's number 1 is user-based reporting scheduling, and that is the Stratum broadcast server that we're talking about today, and that's a push facility, as I mentioned. The other thing that we introduced at the user conference, just kind of FYI, is what we call Viewer Express, and this is a combination of the ability to see views and maybe reports created in reporting service in a single web page targeted at users that want to do some basic filtering, see some reports, maybe flip around between reports. Very simple, easy to use, one-stop shopping for those kind of guys at a single web page. And we'll have a webinar on Viewer Express in not too distant future. But those 2 products, the Stratum Broadcast Server and Viewer Express, are 2 things that we introduced. So let's talk a little bit about the broadcast server and where we see people using it. So one of the big things we get is flash reporting. I want to send out daily reports to particular groups, whether it's sales, operations, management, whoever it may be. But I want to send that out, and I have a set of views that make up those reports. So I might have 4 or 5 views that I want to send to everybody. I'd like them to get a single email with a single Excel file. Each of those views represented by a tab on the spreadsheet or a separate sheet in the workbook. I want to be able to do that, and that's one of the key things that the broadcast server allows you to do. So you can send a single email, whether it's for flash reporting or say to your sales managers, and maybe you have a weekly report that you want to get out to those guys with, open order information and inventory exceptions. So you can get that kind of stuff out and be able to do that. And again, that can be designed and set up by the user community defining who gets the report, so which views are in the reports, who gets them, when they get them. So you can do all that kind of stuff right in Viewer through the admin facility. And then the other is maybe you got weekly sales reports you want to send to people that are not currently Viewer users. And the first group of those might be people outside your organization. So I mentioned distributors before, but it could be suppliers, customers, manufacturing reps, whoever it may be. And it also might be people even within your organization that are not current Stratum users. So maybe you would like to distribute information that you have in Stratum to those folks so they get it in their email, they can carry it with them, they can see it wherever they go, that kind of thing. And then you can also continue to use the Stratum broadcast server, much like you use Actions today for alerts and notifications. So now you're able to build up maybe a series of alerts and get a single email that are around a certain series of alerts that will show you only exceptions or notifications to, in this case on the slide, we talk about inventory control, but it could be we're off of the plan by more than X%. It could be multiple periods in a row of declining sales for a particular customer. It could be inventory shortages, things of that nature. But that notification and alert functionality is also available as part of the Stratum broadcast server. So, as I mentioned, the solution is the broadcast server. Let's just talk about kind of how it's structured. It's structured in 3 layers. At the highest level, you have what we call broadcast schedules. Those schedules would be things like a daily schedule, a weekly schedule, a monthly schedule. You might have a schedule that runs behind your Stratum updates, things of that nature. So you have these schedules out there, and then within a schedule you can add groups, and groups are sets of what we call actions that you want to run. And one of the things about that is not only can a user set those up, you also can go ahead and have different schedules depending on needs, and users can move groups of reports from schedule to schedule, or have different groups that you can run not only on a scheduled basis but on demand as well. So that's something that those are the 2 kind of high-level pieces, and then where the rubber really hits the road is in the broadcast server actions. And actions allow you to link up 1 or more views into a single action, and then allow you to distribute that to a group of people. And when those actions and those views are distributed, a couple things it's important. Number 1, different from if you're used to actions today, they can be distributed via email. They can be written to a network folder, maybe out into your company cloud or into a OneNote or Dropbox, something like that if you want to put things out there. Also, those things, when they run, will run only as we distribute the information to each user you're distributing to, it will only distribute information that they have access to. So you can set up security now, as you always could for a viewer user, to say they can only see, say, a certain territory or a certain division. But you can also do that for non-viewer users as well. There's a new feature that allows you to describe a user as a broadcast server user, and you can set up security for them so that, say, if it's a distributor of yours, they only see information for that distributor should be authorized to. So the broadcast server integrates our current user security with the actions to allow you to be able to do that kind of stuff. So those are the three components that have been added, the schedules, the groups, and the actions. And those integrate ultimately with the views that you've already created or new views that you would create in Stratum Viewer. Then the fourth component to all that is the users, which obviously the current users have access to this, but also you can add new broadcast users that may not have access to Stratum Viewer, but they will be able to be delivered information from Stratum. For those of you that joined a little later, if you could mute your phones, I had hoped that we might be able to get some audio participation, but I don't think that's going to happen with just the number of people we have. So if everyone could mute their phone, that would be great. The benefits of the solution are really pretty straightforward in what I've been talking about. Our objective, and one of our objectives that I would hope you would have as well, is to extend the community of people that have access to information in Stratum. So obviously non-Stratum users within your own four walls or within your network, getting information to those people. But then in addition to that, even outside your world, your dealers, partners, representatives, stuff like that. So we can improve the automation, expand the community, and get stuff out there. Productivity, our objective here, this was really loud and clear. It came through that people wanted the possibility to send a single email with a single attachment that had multiple tabs in there, that each tab represents a view, and you can now do that with the Stratum Broadcast Server. Additionally, reducing the cycle time, so we can put all these actions together, send them as one message. You can also rerun these things. So if for any reason a group of actions doesn't get distributed, or an individual action doesn't get distributed one evening, or you want to run it on demand, you can do that with any of the actions. You can also add things to a group and say this is a one-time deal. So I'm going to add this stuff up there, these actions in there, I'm going to run it, and then I'm going to remove these actions once they're run, so that the next time this group runs, those reports aren't distributed. There was a one-time thing. So you have that ability to do that. And then for those of you that use actions today, you know that there's no real way to manage all of the actions you've created, and there's an action management console now. So that in admin, there's a way to go ahead and see all of the actions that you have and decide which one you want to work on, and work on them independently that way, instead of having to go through the view to the action. So those are all bits and pieces that have been added and come together to be what we call a Stratum Broadcast Server. And this slide just kind of shows a couple examples. Here you can see this first piece right here. This is the email that gets distributed. Again, it's very similar to what we did in actions. You can add text to the email. And then it's got links directly to the reports. So if someone is a viewer user, you can include the links, and they'll be able to go into live reports. And then you can see here's the existing or the generated email, and you can see down here at the bottom, we now have multiple tabs on a single email, so you can see those that way. That allows you to send one email with multiple tabs. Additionally, another nice thing about these things, this is actually a screenshot from a phone that allows you to, if you distributed this via email, you can see how these things are visible in a phone as well. So it's very easy to go ahead and see the same email. You can see here this, this particular view. Things kind of go down the page. I find that if you're going to show things on the phone, you might want to have your views go lengthwise instead of widthwise. So you guys all know you can move the measures to the column, to the rows, and display information that way. But that allows someone to scroll, swipe scroll on there. You can see here I've got down at the bottom here. This is just looking at that same email, that same Excel sheet. I've got some graphs and other things in here they work pretty nicely on a phone, on today's phones, with all the capability they have. So allows you to get information out to phones as well. So with that, let's just quick summary. We wanted user-level management of being able to send information out to people. We wanted user-based scheduling, nightly, weekly, monthly, whatever, or the ability to process immediately. We wanted to be able to get information onto multiple tabs on a spreadsheet, allow you to output to the network and or maybe a cloud-based location, and then also provide access to people outside your organization, but at the same time putting security on that so that you can limit what those people see regardless of what views you send them, as well as we didn't want to lose IT control of some of the schedules and what you have out there, so that the key items you have to get run can be done. So with that overview, I'm going to go over to a demonstration here and just show you guys some of the features that we have. So this is Stratum Viewer. For those of you that haven't seen 6.4 or later, you know that you can now all see that I'm supposed to make a CD soon. We have a new home page. So here, this is the standard home page. You can still use your custom home page, but this home page comes up. But as you know, over here I have views. So where you have your value in Stratum today, or one of the places you have a lot of value, is in these views that you've created. So I might have a view, for example, one of those that we were just looking at, where I've got a monthly scorecard, for example. So I've created a view, and it's got some information in it here, maybe by division and by channel. Allows me to see month to date, week to date, yesterday's revenue, that kind of stuff. So this is just a standard view, nothing special about it. I might have a view that shows me, I don't know, sales to plan performance. So you guys are familiar with all this stuff. And this is just another view that I have that allows me to see the sales this month and year to date, that kind of thing, versus the plan. So I have views of that nature, but I want to distribute these views to people. And that's what the broadcast server lets us do, and it lets us do that through a couple of things. First of all, I have a series of schedules. So I've gone into the new broadcast schedule, and I define these schedules, which are linked to actual schedule entries on the server. And this allows me to say, here's my daily flash. So this runs every day. This is a daily schedule. I've got a monthly schedule and a weekly schedule. And you could have as many schedules as you like here. So you could have different schedules to fit different logistical needs that you have. And within each schedule, I insert groups of reports. So one schedule could have multiple groups inside of it. Gives me some flexibility in terms of different groupings that I might want to add and remove things from, and those are all scheduled to run, again, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. So I have these groups. You can see they can be locked, so I can lock these groups so that users can't add to them. Only people with appropriate permissions can actually get to them, or as the owner, I'm the only person that can get to them, or I can leave them unlocked so other people can add to these schedules, so you have those choices as well. And then ultimately, I want to get to actions, and actions, again, is where the rubber hits the road. I have an action here. I'll take, for example, this daily flash for management, and I'll open that up, and you can see here that this is similar to those of you that are familiar with our old actions. I define the action. I define how I want to distribute it to, how I want to distribute it. Is it going to go to email, or is it going to go out to the network somewhere? I also define who I want on it. You can see here I just have a single person being distributed to here, but you can add people to this list. So this list of people, you can have a list of people, and each person on that list, for each view that's included, you can see down here I've got multiple views included on this one action. So each of these will show up as a tab on the view, on the action and on the distributed file. But for each of those views, it's going to run that view for the specific permissions of the people that are being distributed to. And then you can also see, so this part down here where I have multiple actions here, I have multiple views on my action. You can see which groups I've put it in. This is in a group called My Daily Flash for Management. And from that, this is scheduled to run daily. And what will that do? In this particular case, it'll output an email. So I get an email from this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and flip over to my email and just show you what the result would be if I was to receive this. So here I've got my email. I get a number of these things. You know, here, for example, is my daily management. Here's my daily flash report. So this is an Excel file that's been distributed to me. You can also see, if I wanted to, I could go in and I could directly link to this data. I am a viewer user, so I would have access to clicking on these links and seeing the actual views that ran. But I can open this flash. So obviously it's opening in Excel, and now you can see that I've got a report here that shows me, this is that monthly, the month-to-date revenue, year-to-date, and yesterday's report. So this is that monthly scorecard that I send out on a daily basis, because obviously it's updating every night and gives me an updated position of where I'm at by distribution channel, by division. So lets me know where I'm at there. I've got another tab in that spreadsheet, a couple of graphs that are showing me my inventory valuation by location as well as in summary. Interestingly enough, I have a growing inventory problem. This is on a rolling 12 basis, but lets me see my open AR. So these are all different views that I have in Stratum that allow me to see information and get this out in a single packet out to different folks. Here, for example, my private label brand called Tip Top. I'm very focused on that right now, so I want to see how I'm doing with that. So it lets me see, again, a rolling 12 for how I'm doing with that. Rolling, you know, there's a graph, the same thing. So that's a single packet of information that I get, allows me to see that. You know, I could also, in my email, I think I've got, you know, a weekly sales package as well. So again, just another example of getting a package out this way, again, with different sets of views because the audience is different and who I'm trying to send this to. This information I can also see, for example, on an iPad. So here I'll go into my iPad and bring this up on, here's my email. Same thing we were just looking at, but again, all this stuff displays nicely on an iPad. You can see across the top of the screen here, I've got my different tabs that I can click on. I can pinch zoom on all that stuff so I can see all that. You know, my open AR, all the things that I talked about, same reports, just in seeing these on. So a lot of different ways you can get to the information. With that in mind, the last thing I wanted to talk about was, if you're interested in the broadcast server, what's next? So first of all, if you'd like to learn more about it, certainly don't hesitate to contact your account manager, and we can set up a time to talk more about it. In terms of making it actually happen, one of the first things you'd have to do is upgrade to 6.5 of Stratum, so you'll need to do that. And then any existing actions, so anyone that do use actions, those will have to be recreated in the new action format in 6.5. We have a report that allows you to see actions and their definitions. The other is you'd have to license the broadcast server. So the broadcast server is an additional license fee. You can see your account manager for details on that. Once it's licensed, you get a security key that will enable the broadcast server features. And then from there, you just start broadcasting. So you should be good to go after that. So thanks very much for taking the time to join us.